Hi, good morning. So, you're over 50 and starting to date again, huh? Somehow I imagine you may not have planned this. Most likely, you've already been through some kind of love, loss, and everything in between. And the thought of starting over just might feel a bit daunting. And I get it. Dating is different now than it was decades ago. The rules have changed, and people have changed since you last fell in love. But dating doesn't have to be a burden, which is why today I'm going to help you through this process, not just by showing you the red flags that tend to show up and why you might miss them, but also helping you face your own fears that create red flags of their own when they're not needed. And after 40 years of helping people navigate love and loss, starting over isn't just about finding someone new. It's really about remembering that you can trust yourself again. So, let's dive in. So let's talk about red flags. Those signs that give us the impression that something doesn't feel quite right when you're dating somebody. I've learned a lot from my many patients who are dating over 50, and here's a few of the most common red flags I see that are worth paying attention to. Number one, and I hear this one a lot, their profile photo is from 1998. So this isn't about looks, it's about honesty. Are they showing up as they are or as they were? Number two, they might be good talkers, but they don't ask much about you. If you leave the date knowing their whole backstory, but they didn't ask about yours, well, that's a very important one to pay attention to. Number three, they blame their ex for everything. If all their past relationships ended because of crazy exes, you can bet there's a pattern they haven't faced yet. She ruined my life. He was a narcissist. You'll hear a lot of that. Number four, they're inconsistent. They show up really strong one week, texting and calling and planning dates and saying all the right things, and then suddenly, poof, they're gone. They vanish. You don't really hear from them for a while, and then they may call a few weeks later, so you're left wondering, what happened? Did I do something wrong? No. People who are emotionally ready for connection don't keep you guessing. They keep showing up. Number five, they are on fast forward, full steam ahead. They have fallen in love with you after 2 dates and they can't wait to meet the family. That's not chemistry. That's fantasy. Number six, one of my favorites. They avoid depth. Every time you steer the conversation toward feelings, values, or their past, they might joke or change the subject or dodge anything emotional because real intimacy makes them feel uncomfortable. Number seven, they just don't know what they want. I'm just kind of seeing what's out there. Okay, translation? They're not ready for an emotional connection. And number eight, and my husband wanted me to add this, if you're a woman, don't expect to have a free meal ticket. Men feel they're expected to pay, and women feel men are expected to pay. So don't expect to be served. So here's the thing about red flags. They don't always announce themselves. They're not always obvious, which is why it's so important to listen to that small knot in your gut that says, this doesn't feel quite right. So if something feels off, trust that signal, even if the person you're dating seems to have all the right answers. Because the more you learn to trust that feeling, the more you learn to trust yourself. So many times when my patients look back at a relationship that didn't work out, they'll say to me, how could I have not seen that? It was staring me in the face the whole time, and I don't know what happened, but is it because I didn't want to see it? Well, basically, yes. But I tell them, don't be so hard on yourself, because we can miss those red flags for all the right reasons. You see, there's a reason why you're jumping into the unknown territory, dating after the age of 50, And it's for the right reasons. Why? Because you want connection again. You want to be hopeful. And most of all, you want to find love again. And there is no better reason than that to start this venture. But sometimes we want it so much, we start to negotiate with our instincts, with our gut, with our intuition. So we rationalize and we minimize the red flags so we don't have to face potential disappointment or loss or loneliness. So we tell ourselves, maybe I'm just being too picky. Maybe I just need to give it more time. Maybe I didn't understand her or him correctly. So we downplay what we feel and we make excuses. And the only reason we do that is because we're afraid. And one of the biggest fears for most people is the fear of being alone. And it's not because you can't stand being by yourself. And it's not that you're not independent. No. It's because you don't want to be alone for the rest of your life. And rightly so. Now, we know that no relationship is perfect. But when something feels off, it's sometimes kind of easy to convince yourself that being with someone, even if it's not quite right, is better than being with no one. It's not. Because what can happen because of that is that you just might settle for someone's potential. You see who they could be, and you fall for the possibility instead of the reality. I want to say that one again. You fall for the possibility instead of the reality. In other words, you think, if I just give it time, they'll open up. Or he's got such great potential, or she's got such great potential. But potential is not enough. Because potential isn't real. It's the idea of who someone could become, not who they're showing you today. And the other reason I think we settle is because we don't want to suffer another loss. So whether you lost someone in the past due to divorce or widowhood, letting go of someone you know isn't quite right for you is still hard to do because it's another loss, which then means starting over. And this is what my patients feel the most discouraged about. The prospect of having to continue to start over until they find the right one for themselves. However, when they learn to ask the right questions, especially at the beginning, which is what we're going to talk about in the very next video, the wrong people fall away faster and the right ones stand out with ease. And now we're headed more toward a happy ending. So up to this point, we've talked about what red flags are and why we may not see them. But now we need to talk about you and how your own fears can create blockages to closeness with someone who could actually be another love of your life. And by the way, you're allowed to have more than one love of your life. So here's how you create red flags that aren't really there. It's very common after you've been hurt that fear starts scanning the horizon for danger. It says, be careful. Don't trust too soon. Look closer. Now, that kind of feels protective, doesn't it? And it is. It's good advice until you start doing this. Well, now you start analyzing every word. You start analyzing every text. What does that mean? And every pause. I wonder why he's so silent. And then you start making assumptions of what they mean. So then you start testing them instead of trusting them. Or, and this one is so common, you pull back just when things start to feel real or close. Or you wait for the disappointment because you're expecting it before it ever comes. And you do all of this because you're afraid of being hurt again. And you're afraid of giving your heart to someone who might not want it. So you withhold your feelings before the other person ever has the chance of knowing that beautiful heart of yours. So here's what I want you to remember. You're not the same person who got hurt back then. You've learned a lot since then. Hopefully you've done some healing, and you are definitely wiser now. So when fear starts talking, starts to bubble up inside you, you need to remind yourself of all that and ask yourself honestly, is this my intuition talking, or is this my fear trying to protect me from getting too close? And how will you know the difference? Well, your intuition always feels calm and peaceful, and your fear always feels urgent and anxious. And that difference alone can save you from pushing away something real before it ever has a chance to grow. So, if you've missed a few flags in the past, yeah, or maybe even created some that really weren't there, yeah, please don't be hard on yourself. Because every part of you that's cautious or hopeful or scared, it's just trying to protect your heart. But remember, you've already survived what you thought you couldn't. You've learned what pain feels like, and that means you can trust yourself now in a way you couldn't before. You're older and wiser now. And love at this stage of your life isn't about perfection. It's not about fantasy. It's about two people who have lived enough life to value honesty and truth over fantasy. So take your time. Listen to your intuition. You don't have to rush into love or run away from it. You just have to trust that you'll know the difference when it shows up. And here's the good news. Not only are there red flags, but guess what? There are green flags too. And in our next video, we're going to talk about how to spot them and how asking the right questions can show you who's emotionally ready for real connection and who's not. I've even put together a Dr. Connie's cheat sheet questionnaire that will make those conversations a whole lot easier, or at the very least, a whole lot more real. So if you like this video, please give it a like and a share. And I'd really love to hear from you in your comments. And I sincerely mean that because every week I'm looking at a camera speaking from my heart to you, and I'd like to know you're looking back. So thank you ahead of time for your comments. And if you like this video, try this favorite one of mine, Don't Miss Your Life. If you're ready, this video provides a lifeline back to peace and clarity and genuine aliveness. But lastly, there's two things I'd like you to take with you today. And the first is I want you to remember that starting over isn't about finding somebody new. It's about remembering that you can trust yourself again. And number two, surprise, surprise, there really is no one worth knowing more than you.